1767. I remind people that's 9 years prior to the Declaration of Independence. And they go, wow. It's 250 years, it's pretty incredible. I think the biggest thing it means to me is the incredible legacy of excellence and the burden that we have to carry into the future. Happened in those 250 years, the whole birth, growth, development of the United States of America, and how the shipyard has played such a huge role in it.
For a long time, we've been doing business the right way. We were getting ships out of here, and being a sailor, I really appreciate the work that they do on the ships.
Norfolk Naval Shipyard. Founded by Scottish entrepreneur Andrew Sproul on the Elizabeth River in 1767 and originally called Gosport, this shipyard predates not only the U.S. Navy, but the United States itself. Woven into the fabric of our country, this shipyard has witnessed some of the most monumental achievements and events throughout our nation's history. Today, the shipyard continues a tradition of excellence, repairing, refueling, and modernizing our Navy's vessels, keeping the fleet fit to fight, and staying committed to the security of our nation. Norfolk Naval Shipyard's nationwide impact is only dwarfed by its influence at home in Virginia, where it serves as the fourth largest employer in Hampton Roads. With an eye to the future, the shipyard continues to push the envelope. Instituting new technologies, Norfolk Naval Shipyard remains on the cutting edge, bringing new ideas and capabilities to the forefront and preparing our naval fleet for the next century and beyond. Forged through history, looking ahead. This is Norfolk Naval Shipyard, 250 years of history and innovation, an important past, a vital future. Hello, I'm Jay Gates, your tour guide on this celebration of Norfolk Naval Shipyard's 250th anniversary. We're going to look at what makes this shipyard the premier shipyard in the United States. We'll also take a look into the future and get a glimpse of what may be in store for the next generation. But in order to get a better understanding of all that, we must first look at this shipyard's history. Roughly 8 years after Sproul founded the Gosport shipyard, the American Revolution begins. Staying loyal to the British Empire, Sproul fled the state of Virginia, which then confiscated the shipyard.
We'll take this. Yoink.
But in 1779, the British burned it to the ground.
Oh, man.
Not cool, dude.
That's uncalled for.
Fast forward to 1801. After being rebuilt, The federal government bought the shipyard, which at the time consisted of just 16 acres, from Virginia for $12,000. In today's market, there are very few brand new economy cars you can buy for $12,000. But, adjusted for inflation, $12,000 in 1801 was equal to roughly $230,000 today, which is still less than the current median cost of a house in the U.S.
I got a great deal.
Oh, I didn't.
In 1827, the shipyard began expanding, and in 1833 completed the first dry dock in the Americas. Dry Dock 1 is still in operation today and is a National Historic Landmark. The shipyard kept growing, and in 1846 purchased additional land on the eastern side of the Elizabeth River, then known as St. Helena. With the American Civil War brewing, Virginia joined the Confederate States of America in 1861. Fearing the Confederacy would take over the shipyard, shipyard commander Captain Charles Stewart Macaulay had it burned to the ground. Again.
Again?
I'm sensing a trend here.
That's uncalled for.
The Confederacy would eventually take control of the shipyard, though not by force. Using some trickery, Norfolk and Petersburg Railroad President William Mahone bluffed federal troops into abandoning the shipyard by loudly running a single passenger train into Norfolk, quietly sending it back west, and then loudly returning the same train. Mahone created the illusion that there were large numbers of Confederate troops coming.
There's a lot of us.
So many.
You'd better leave.
Eventually, Union forces were able to recapture the shipyard in May of 1862, but not before the shipyard was, once again, burned to the ground. This time by the Confederates on their way out.
This is getting ridiculous.
I feel like I've seen this before.
That's uncalled for.
At this time, the Union renamed the shipyard. They decided against naming it Portsmouth Shipyard despite actually residing in Portsmouth, Virginia, because they didn't want to confuse it with the Portsmouth Shipyard located in Kittery, Maine, near Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
We came up with this name first.
You have to pick something else.
Instead, they renamed it United States Navy Yard, Norfolk, Virginia, after the county in which it was located. With its growing pains seemingly behind it, the shipyard would compile an impressive list of historic achievements to cement its place as America's shipyard. Dry Dock 2 was completed in 1889. The first battleship was built and commissioned between 1889 and 1892. Its name was the USS Texas. Dry Dock 3 was built in 1907. Dry Dock 4 followed in 1917. The first aircraft carrier was built at Norfolk Shipyard between 1919 and 1922. Named USS Langley, it was converted from the collier USS Jupiter. In 1945, the shipyard officially changed its name to Norfolk Naval Shipyard. Throughout its history, the shipyard built more than 190 ships. The last one, USS Bulwark, was commissioned in 1953. And in 1965, the shipyard was temporarily home to the USS Skate, the first nuclear-powered submarine to undergo a major overhaul and refueling at Norfolk Naval Shipyard. Today, Norfolk Naval Shipyard employs more than 11,000 people and has repaired more than 1,150 Navy ships since that first major overhaul and refueling of the USS Skate in 1965. The amount of history that courses through the veins of this shipyard is not lost on the employees who continue to contribute to that history.
When you launch the first 6 frigates, when you create the first Ironside, when you launch the first aircraft carrier, I mean, USS Enterprise, a marvel of her day, the first nuclear carrier, you know, all of these challenges that America needed, all answered right here.
250 years, long time. A lot of history, a lot of technology, a lot of men and women that have come before us, that have set the path for us where we are now.
There's a lot of pride associated with being a part of something that's 250 years old. Obviously, there's pride in being part of the Navy, but being part of an organization that existed even before the U.S. Navy was around is something to be proud of.
The shipyard's been around longer than the country, so it's an amazing feat to show that the country was already being started here prior to us actually gaining our independence.
I think the biggest thing it means to me is the incredible legacy of excellence and the burden that we have to carry that into the future.
That's a long lineage, a lot of generations, and as I've worked here, I've noticed this is pretty much a generational type thing. I've seen people's grandparents, parents, relatives work here, so it's definitely something passed down.
Planning for the future also means implementing emerging technologies. Norfolk Naval Shipyard has resources dedicated to developing cleaner and more efficient ways of accomplishing the Navy's mission. With an eye on innovation, NNSY will continue to lead the way.
Technology-wise, in the not-so-distant future, the Ford class and the Virginia class are giving us a really good glimpse of what shipbuilding and ship design is going to look like. It's going to be fiber optics, computers, and touchscreens.
I see in the future that virtual reality can help you walk around a space, help you understand how tight. I've watched shipyard workers that are almost as big as me try to squeeze in some of the tightest nooks and crannies because they have to get to electrical cables or piping that needs to be worked.
I see us as state of the art. I see it happening at some point in time. I mean, we're doing it now, but it's just going to get even better.
I hope that there are a lot of upgrades, but I also hope that we never lose like the older buildings that we have, because there's so much history, and I think that that's really important in the future, is to always know where you've come from.
Newer technologies to help us, whether it's IT or 3D graphics or 3D printing, things like that. And you get that technology in front of our workforce and our deck plate workforce, and they eat it up.
I see them having tablets for our blueprint reading and stuff, so we won't have to carry so many papers out on the deck plate. It has been talks about that, and that's easier, more feasible to carry around.
So I look 10 to 15, 20 years down the road, and I see this diverse workforce operating under a state-of-the-art facility that has developed leaders at every single level of the organization.
A history older than the nation itself, filled with strength and sacrifice. A pillar of defense and an asset to the community today. A world of possibility, filled with promise and innovation. An important past, a vital future. Happy 250th anniversary, Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and may your next 250 years be even better than your last.
Go.